Ray Epps has been charged. This is a very curious one. We've been waiting some time for this, wondering why he's free roaming around America while many others are sitting in the DC gulags. Well, now the Department of Justice dropped some charges. And you'll notice that Ray Epps didn't have his house raided or his family ransacked or him and his personal liberty be seized and thrown in custody. No, all of this was done with lawyers. All of this was done with paperwork. And you'll also notice that all of this was done very late. The timing on this is curious. We had photographs of Ray Epps from day one. In fact, the FBI did too. We're going to talk about those from the very beginning. But he's been allowed to run free while other former Oath Keepers or other current Oath Keepers were in custody. And we're asking ourselves about the distinction, the difference between the two charges. Stewart Rhodes, a former Oath Keeper or current Oath Keeper at the time, was sentenced to 18 years. And Ray Epps, we'll see if his sentence is anything close. But the charges are not that significant. In fact, it's just one count of disorderly conduct, while everybody else got charged with seditious conspiracy. And Ray Epps, the information gets dropped, of course, after other sentences have been handed out. You'll notice that's why we waited so long. Guess what? Two major conspiracy cases have already been concluded. We covered them here. Oath Keepers and Proud Boys. We just had the final sentencings for all of those guys. And now they drop Ray Epps. Very convenient. Very convenient. And in those other trials, they wanted to subpoena Ray Epps. They wanted to drag his butt in there to testify, but Ray Epps was just running around the country in an RV or something, allegedly. So they couldn't find him. But now once those cases are concluded, once Enrique Tarrio spends decades in prison, Stewart Rhodes, same thing, then they decide, let's go ahead and charge Ray Epps. Very convenient. Isn't that fun how that works? Here's the information, thing's a joke, relative to the other people who have been charged. 2 pages. Yeah, of course. It's United States of America versus James Ray Epps. We've got one count, 18 U.S. Code 1752A2, disorderly conduct. Oh, gosh. And disorderly conduct is like that catch-all charge. What happened to seditious conspiracy? He was telling people the night before, into the Capitol, into the Capitol. What happened to that one? Why was he not part of a collusion effort to insurrect and interfere with the lawful transfer of power? Blah, 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 blah. Here, on or about, they say, this is the entire document, okay, so like, don't get comfy. Here, count 1. The U.S. Attorney says, on or about January 6th, within the District of Columbia, James Ray Epps Sr. did knowingly, with the intent to impede and disrupt the orderly conduct of government business and official functions, engage in disorderly and disruptive conduct in and within such proximity to a restricted building and grounds. In and within such proximity to a restricted building and grounds. That is, any posted, cordoned off, otherwise restricted area within the United States Capitol and its grounds where the VP was and would be temporarily visiting, when and so that such conduct did in fact impede and disrupt the orderly conduct of government, attempted and conspired to do so. All of this basically meaningless, right? This is just legalese. Now, my question is, what was the conduct? What is the factual basis going to be? So when somebody takes a plea deal, you'll come out and you'll say, what crime do you plead guilty to? And you say, oh, DUI. Well, what are the elements of a DUI? Well, it's being an actual physical control of a motor vehicle within the jurisdiction of this city. It's having a blood alcohol content above whatever it is in your state or whatever the allegation is, Arizona 0.08. And so that's the technicality thing, right? But then you actually communicate that a person was in their vehicle, they were leaving a residence, they pulled out, there was an investigation that took place. In other words, where was Ray Epps? Where was his physical location? Did he go into the Capitol? How did he disrupt the conduct and so on? We don't get any of that information. In other words, this is not a criminal complaint like we've read through here. This is just a listing of the charges. This is not even resembling even Fannie Willis's, state level indictments where we get to see a bunch of the overt conduct and all of those different things. So we don't get to see anything. They don't even really tell us much other than he was just charged, and they give us the legalese that they have to in order to bring the information into the court. So that's it. There's nothing to it. Not much else there. And we've read through a number of these documents here. When we read through the other documents for the Proud Boys, for example, what type of language we got from all of the U.S. attorneys. Okay, they're all talking about how horrific and what a monstrous thing this was and how American democracy almost evaporated that very instant, blah, blah, blah. None of that language here. Just very bland, very matter of fact, because they're going to try to squeeze this whole thing through. And they've done this before. Okay, Ray Epps is not the only guy that has had this done. Here at the end, we're going to go through this other person called Samuel Lazar, who also was sentenced in secret. This whole process, this entire information was all done in secret. Nobody even knew about it. So the DOJ is trying to cover all of those cases up that they don't want us to hear about. But meanwhile, they'll come out in front of America, and every single time there is a result from some show trial, they'll say, oh, he was guilty, this guy's guilty, and Enrique Tarrio's going to prison, and Stewart Rhodes is going to prison, and all the things. Now, we know who Ray Epps is, so we read through the criminal information. information. We've covered a lot of January 6 cases here. And the questions are, does that match what we saw? Does what the government charge in their so-called information match the other things that we have seen? This was what the FBI posted. And you'll notice that right down here is Ray Epps, photograph number 16. So the FBI was asking about violent offenders at the Capitol, right? Not non-violent offenders, violent. All of these people, some of these people were arrested right there. That happened with Ray Epps, the guy who was telling people to go into the Capitol. No, the FBI was calling him out from day one until not. And so here's what we see. This was something that I captured a long time ago in Arizona. There was a posting for the Oath Keepers, and this is just a snapshot from the Arizona events calendar from the Oath Keepers National and State Chapter Forums. All right, here's the list. We will not obey orders to disarm the American people. All right, here's our statement and all that stuff. Now, when you went over to that post, you'll notice that in that post, there were photographs like this. We captured this, many years ago when we were going through all of this. This was a post saying that Stewart Rhodes of the Oath Keepers is going to be at the hometown buffet, if you remember those. I don't think those are still around anymore. Tonight, January 28th, 2011. Stewart Rhodes of the Oath Keepers was going to be there. And look who that is right there, right next to him, man. Look at that. That's Ray Epps, yo. That's Epps hanging out with Stewart Rhodes at Oath Keepers in 2011 at a hometown buffet, man. And we all love a good buffet. So that's just that one. Then we also know that Ray Epps there's the rest of the post. You can see that. And by the way, all of this stuff is on the mind map. If you want to access the mind map, you can do that at robertgovea.com. All these documents are accessible if you'd like to see it. FBI, this was what they were seeking. Okay, he was photograph number 16 for literally being violent at the Capitol. That means some numbskull at the FBI who was sitting around playing Where's Waldo with their highlighter was identifying the violent offenders. And they put Ray Epps on there because they didn't know that he was one of theirs or working with them. So put him on the list. Then this was another clip. Now you saw all of this. We played it all, and I'm not going to play it. Well, we'll listen to a little bit. There's some swear words and F-bombs and all the things in here, so we'll just let it go. But he's saying into the Capitol, right? Tomorrow we're going into the Capitol. You can see, you can read it on his lips right there. And I'll play this after this segment ends here. Where our problems are. Here's where you go.
Please spread the word. All right, noted. But one more thing. Yeah, so can we go up there? No? When we go in, are we going to get arrested if we go up there?
When we go in, leave this here. Don't want to get shot. And there he was. Right there. That's the initial breach, right? That's where it all went down. That's the initial breach, and those guys got charged for that. So Ray Epps apparently did not get charged for any of that other conduct, just for the one disorderly conduct. That's the source video. That's the other video. This was another clip of Ray Epps hanging out with Stewart Rhodes, okay? So this was, I believe, in Arizona. This is Ray Epps right here marching along the street with Stewart Rhodes, marching with the Oath Keepers. And here's some bagpipes for you. That's Epps, big dude, same dude that we have seen previously, marching with Stewart Rhodes. And that was on some ceremony for some person who's probably fallen. Same thing here. Look at these two, Ray Epps and Stewart Rhodes. Pour one out for justice. So that's them, right? These guys are hanging out with each other. And Stewart Rhodes is going to prison for 18 years. He wasn't even there at the Capitol at all. So now Ray Epps has been charged. Big whoop. Here is what Docket looks like. Here's the information. Not a lot of activity since this just dropped. Information landed September 18th. Ray Epps, we already read through that, a page and sentence. A minute order, the judge ordered, says, after discussions with the parties, the court orders an arraignment and a plea agreement hearing set for the 20th at 3 p.m. via Zoom. Look at this. Oh, he's going to plead guilty tomorrow. They're going to do it over Zoom because it's a misdemeanor. It's basically meaningless. So he's not even going to travel, and we're not going to see any of it. And there's probably not going to be any access to anything. There'll be probably a very brief transcript. They're doing it over Zoom tomorrow. Ray Epps is pleading guilty tomorrow, the 20th, 3 p.m. on Zoom. All right. That was real quick, very fast. Now, of course, they waited until all of the other so-called seditious conspirators have been sentenced in order to squeeze this one through. Now that that's done, now they can do this. this, and they'll do it very quickly. Soon as they announce it, look how quick the judge set the sentencing, or the plea agreement, right? Very quick. They file the information, it's done the next day. You don't want to have happen what happened in the Hunter plea deal. What happened in Hunter is there was a lot of time, all right? Congress started sending letters in, people started asking questions, and they couldn't get the plea deal done in time, so the whole thing got derailed when Judge Norica asked some questions about that. But this is not in the Delaware district. This is in DC, which of course is the District of Columbia, which means that they are really going to try to squeeze this thing through. So 2 days between the information and the plea deal, and the whole thing will probably be done. Very nice of Judge Boasberg to do that. I'm sure the judge didn't have a busy calendar or anything. I'm sure it wasn't a big deal to squeeze Ray Epps in there for just a special Zoom meeting. What a joke. All right, so September 19th, they say also pursuant to the Due Process Protections Act, government disclose any Brady material over to Ray Epps, which they'll do if, you know, that matters. If he's going to take a plea deal for basically a non-crime. So ordered by Chief Judge, and they had a notice of appearance, so his attorney is now on the case. His name is Edward Ungavarsky, who is representing Ray Epps. Now, some people are looking at this. Obviously, Julie Kelly is one of them. She says, and Julie Kelly, if you're not already following her, you should be at Julie_Kelly2. Sorry, Kelly. Make sure you follow Julie Kelly. Says, the lame single charge tells us everything we need to know about Ray Epps. No obstruction felony, no civil disorder, not even trespassing on restricted grounds misdemeanor. I want to know why there's not a seditious conspiracy. In addition to that, he was a former Oath Keeper. Who knows if he was colluding with those guys? He was out there marching around in ceremonies with them. He was showing up to hometown buffets with the Oath Keepers. How do we know that he wasn't connected with them? So in addition to that, but Julie's right. Can't even tell you the last time I saw an information on the J6 cases because we don't see them. Not sure it exists, but she says that she'll check, and she did, and she went through and she found, I think, a summation of this. She says, after a cursory review of the DOJ's J6 website, I can confirm that a single count information is, quote, exceedingly rare, representing less than 20. Caseload is at 1,100, which is still a total joke. Just to be clear about that, 1,100 cases over, we're coming up on like 3 years now. So 1,100 cases over 3 years for the entire Department of Justice. It's embarrassing. Just do the math on it. Just divide. Ask yourself what a local city, how many criminal cases one city prosecutes in 1 year. It's, pick a city, New York, Arizona, tens of thousands of cases, not 1,100, which is a joke. Of those, most are for parading in the Capitol. I only found one case similar to Epps. And our question, of course, is was that guy a Fed too? This is the only one, Isaiah Giddings. And in the can't make it up category, Julie says, this individual was with the Proud Boys on January 6th. Recall at least 15 FBI informants were in the Proud Boys before and after. Yes. So in other words, yeah, maybe he was. Maybe he was an informant, which is why he took a deal like that. I don't know. So something fishy is going on, no doubt about it, but it is the DOJ, okay? If they have a bad criminal defendant that is not useful for their side, then they'll just sneak everything through. They won't even let us know about what the truth is about that case. I have suspicions that it's because they were behind January 6th. They either wanted it to happen, I think they wanted it to happen and they did it one of two ways. They either actively instigated it or they were grossly negligent in not allowing the place to be secure. Either way, there should be answers about it, and there's not. All they just turn around and say is, Trump did it. Give me a break. Here is the other Ray Epps. A January 6th rioter was convicted, and look at this, sentenced in secret. Huh, that's weird. No one will say why. Is this from Fox News or something? No, it's from the AP. It says here, hundreds of rioters have been charged, many dressed in tactical gear for coming and try to do the thing, but there is no public record of a conviction or a sentence in Lazar's court docket. Lazar was arrested July 21st on charges that he came to the Capitol, but there's no record of anything. The Bureau of Prisons, though, told the AP that the man was released from federal custody after completing a sentence for assaulting or resisting a federal officer. Lazar was sentenced in the federal court on March 17th to 30 months in prison, but there's no public record of the hearing. That's weird, man. He's been jailed since July 2021. So when we talk about gulags and when we talk about people just being thrown away in prison and we have no record of them, this might be one case of that. Here, questions about Lazar's case have been swirling for months, but the Justice Department has refused to say why the case remains under wraps. Attorneys for Lazar did not respond to a request for comments. The judge overseeing Lazar's case rejected a request from the media outlets to release any sealed records, and the case is raising concerns about the transparency, or the lack thereof, in the massive J6 investigation, which isn't that massive at all. Don't buy that, okay? This is not a massive investigation. It's a joke. 1,200 charges is a joke. Just look at your city. Look up how many crimes, how many felonies per year in my city. Just look. I bet it's more than 1,000 if you live in a big city. Including sentencing hearings and plea agreements are supposed supposed to be open and available that we can't see any of this. Lazar was transferred in July, a federal lockup in New Jersey, to, quote, community confinement overseen by the Bureau of Prisons, which means he was either in home confinement or a halfway house. Yeah, so he's not actually in prison. So here, wait a minute, after he was transferred in July, secret plea hearings are not unheard of, though the records are often unsealed. In an unrelated example, a guilty plea by George Papadopoulos was entered under seal, kept out of view for a few weeks until Robert Mueller disclosed it. Other people say we can't remember any case where a sentencing and a sentence were placed under seal, unless there's some kind of security concern or something. But many defendants have cooperation deals with the government, and their cases haven't been resolved in secret. The fact that he also got sentenced, went to prison, and is already out, that whole situation is just unusual. Yeah. There's not even an entry on the public dockets. Lazar is among more than 1,100 defendants charged with crimes. He was apparently approaching police lines, discharging an orange chemical irritant, and shouted profane insults at the cops. They gave him indictments, a number of different charges. The public docket provides no explanation as to why, despite the strong presumption of transparency in this circuit, these judicial records are not available to the public. After the secret sentencing, his brother told the news that their mother was even more confused. She has no idea if and when he's coming home, assuming he was even actually given a sentence today. So the family can't even find the guy. In May, Judge Jackson denied the news outlet's request after a prosecutor and defense attorney argued that sometimes secrecy can be outweighed by significant competing interests. What are those? We don't know. Jackson said there were no undocketed records in this case, but the judge said the news outlets could renew their requests later. Weird. Yeah, they don't want to tell us about this stuff. We've got a lot of questions. We've got concerns that the footage shows things that they don't want us to see, and they just keep doing this stuff very quickly. Ray Epps, he gets his criminal information after the other Oath Keepers all go to prison. And the information gets filed after the seditious conspiracy cases are concluded. Why? Because the DOJ is trying to craft a narrative, and they're waiting. They're just maneuvering these pieces around on the chessboard. They keep telling us it's this massive insurrection that took place. But guys like Ray Epps, who were there urging people to go into the Capitol, they then turn around and say, those guys aren't that big of a problem. We give minor slap on the wrist for disorderly conduct. Meanwhile, other people have their lives completely destroyed for conduct that is less significant than Ray's was. That's our DOJ. We'll continue to cover. This case is going to get resolved very quickly tomorrow. We'll see what it looks like. Hopefully you join us and subscribe. Thank you for checking out robertgovea.com to sign up for our daily newsletter, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.